The year 1941 marked a pivotal turning point in the fate of Nazi Germany. The decision to invade the Soviet Union in June 1941 would prove to be their undoing. Operation Barbarossa exposed the German army to the unforgiving vastness of the Eastern Front. The sheer scale of the Soviet Union, its harsh climate, and the tenacity of the Red Army all presented formidable challenges. From the frozen wastelands outside Moscow to the rubble-strewn streets of Stalingrad, the struggle was a clash of ideologies, a fight for survival. This vast and terrible front would consume German resources, manpower, and ultimately, its hope for victory. Driven by Adolf Hitler's ideology of Lebensraum, the concept of acquiring living space for the German people, the Nazi regime embarked on an ambitious and perilous campaign. Operation Barbarossa was launched on June 22, 1941, marking the beginning of one of the largest military operations in history. The invasion force, comprising over 3 million German soldiers alongside Axis allies, stormed across the Soviet border with an unprecedented ferocity. Initial German advances were swift and brutal, catching the Soviet forces off guard and leading to rapid territorial gains. The Wehrmacht achieved significant breakthroughs, encircling vast Soviet armies and capturing large swathes of territory, pushing deeper into the Soviet Union. Hitler and his generals were confident of a swift victory, underestimating the resolve and resilience of the Soviet people and their leadership. As the campaign wore on, logistical challenges began to mount for the Germans. The vast distances and the harsh terrain took a toll on their supply lines. The vast distances, poor road networks, and stiffening Soviet resistance slowed the German advance significantly, turning what was expected to be a quick campaign into a prolonged struggle. The Germans had prepared for a short, decisive campaign, but were now drawn into a protracted war of attrition, facing fierce Soviet counterattacks and the brutal Russian winter. The Eastern Front would become a vampire, bleeding the Third Reich white, draining its resources and manpower in a relentless and unforgiving conflict. By late September 1941, the Wehrmacht was at the gates of Moscow. Operation Typhoon, the German plan to capture the Soviet capital, commenced in early October. The Germans encountered fierce resistance from the Red Army, bolstered by fresh reserves. As temperatures plummeted and the first snows fell, the German advance faltered. Exhausted and ill-equipped for winter warfare, the Wehrmacht was vulnerable to the inevitable Soviet counteroffensive. On December 5, 1941, the counterattack began. The myth of German invincibility was shattered as the Wehrmacht was forced into a full retreat. Section 4. Stalingrad, the crumbling edifice. The Battle of Stalingrad from August 1942 to February 1943 marked a decisive turning point. Hitler, obsessed with capturing the city, poured men and resources into the battle. The fighting was ferocious, descending into hand-to-hand combat amidst the rubble. The German Sixth Army, under General Friedrich Paulus, managed to capture most of the city by November, but was encircled by a massive Soviet counteroffensive. Trapped within the ruins, the Sixth Army fought on, hoping for relief that never came. On February 2, 1943, General Paulus surrendered, marking a catastrophic defeat for the Germans. Section 5. Operation Bagration, the Red Tide engulfs. By the summer of 1944, the Red Army was on the offensive along the entire Eastern Front. Operation Bagration, launched on June 22, 1944, aimed to liberate Soviet territory and deliver a decisive blow to the Wehrmacht. Over 2.3 million Red Army soldiers, backed by thousands of tanks and aircraft, surged forward, achieving complete surprise. The German Army Group Center, tasked with defending Belarus, was shattered. Soviet forces advanced rapidly, liberating entire regions and inflicting heavy casualties on the retreating Germans. Operation Bagration demonstrated the dramatic shift in the balance of power on the Eastern Front. Section 6. The Grand Mufti and the Nazi Alliance. While the Eastern Front was the primary theater of war, it is crucial to acknowledge the regime's collaborators. These collaborators played significant roles in various regions, extending the reach of Nazi influence far beyond Germany's borders. One such figure was Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. His influence and actions had profound implications for the Middle East during and after the war. Driven by a shared hatred of Jews, the Grand Mufti forged a close alliance with the Nazi regime. This alliance was not merely symbolic, it had real and devastating consequences. He saw in Hitler a powerful ally in his quest to destroy the Jewish presence in Palestine. The Mufti's collaboration with the Nazis was marked by mutual interests and a shared ideology of anti-Semitism. The Mufti actively encouraged the extermination of Jews, even proposing plans for death camps in the Middle East. His involvement went beyond mere rhetoric. He was deeply engaged in the logistics and planning of these horrific acts. His actions serve as a stark reminder that the horrors of the Holocaust were not confined to Europe. The Grand Mufti's collaboration with the Nazis highlights the global dimensions of the Holocaust and the widespread complicity in these atrocities. Section 7. The Final Collapse. Berlin and the End of the Reich. By early 1945, the writing was on the wall for the Third Reich. The once mighty empire was crumbling under the relentless pressure from both the eastern and western fronts. The city of Berlin, once a symbol of Nazi power, was now a landscape of devastation and despair. The Red Army was advancing relentlessly from the east, while Allied forces were pushing in from the west. The combined might of these forces left the German military stretched thin and unable to mount a significant defense. In April 1945, the Battle of Berlin commenced. This was the final major offensive of the European theater of World War II, and it was marked by intense and brutal combat. Soviet forces fought their way into the heart of the German capital, engaging in brutal street fighting. The city's defenses crumbled as Soviet troops advanced block by block, house by house. Amidst the ruins of his chancellery bunker, Adolf Hitler committed suicide on April 30, 1945. His death marked the symbolic end of the Nazi regime. On May 7, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allies, marking the end of World War II in Europe. The surrender brought relief and jubilation across the continent, as the long and devastating conflict finally came to a close. The collapse of Nazi Germany serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked extremism and racial hatred. The ruins of Berlin stand as a testament to the destructive power of war and the resilience of those who rebuild in its aftermath.